Welcome. Another podcast without a name. We've been just thinking about it and just created a little logo.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
I guess that's not, I thought that would be seen, but I forgot
No.
we're not doing that background
No,
shot anymore.
they won't see it. But yeah, so we're still kind of in between thinking of some names here. So
Yeah. I mean,
when they see it, it's gonna have a name. So I don't know about introducing it.
well,
Like,
not only that, but like, this has all happened within a few days' time too. It's not like this has been spread out over a couple weeks that we filmed these. These are,
magic. They're gonna come out every week,
so, and
Yeah, and we are truly running out of ideas already. So if we can get some people to come onto the podcast and make the content for us, that would be great.
let us film you and we'll be there.
Yeah, we'll just
show up.
I mean, the camera, I'll do the camera stuff. Like that's easy.
I can be a minority.
You mean like more than you already are?
No, just in general. Just like, to fill out the quota for the scene.
Hey, so okay, we're gonna start this again. No. Okay, but let's get serious then. Okay, so today what we want to talk about is some songwriting, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've seen a lot of it.
Talking about songwriting, yeah.
Yeah, I think maybe we should
We've done a little bit. We've done a little bit of it, yeah.
we just a little bit. I
Yeah.
mean, only dedicated, a few years of my whole life
Yeah.
just writing songs. But yeah, I think we should talk about some. Maybe let's start with some like popular. Let's do some popular stuff that we like, so that people kind of
Popular songwriters?
Well, yeah, like just like like
Okay.
maybe make some name drops at this point. We can try to dissect where where their songwriting comes from. Like, who are your favorites? Who are you inspired by a lot?
That's tough.
Yeah.
Because if you got to break it down, is it a band or is it a solo artist that's the songwriter? You know what I mean? Because you have the classic kind of singer-songwriters. Not that these are my favorite, but like the James Taylor type that make great music. But as
Right.
far as, you know what I mean? That's a genuine songwriter type as far as like, the truest sense of it.
Yeah. But what's that?
Yeah. I didn't
even-
answer it at all. I deflected your question.
Total curve.
It changes for me all the time. I'm a fan of Periphery. I'm a fan of a lot of older underground Ontario bands and stuff like that. I'm a big fan of blues and stuff, so I've always been. I enjoy a lot of John Mayer's other stuff. A lot of his,
Okay.
you know what I mean? Like, even he said, a lot of his hits are his radio play stuff, and then he's got his
Yeah.
deep cuts, if you will. So, artists kind of like that, Tash Sultana, great solo artist kind of thing. So.
Really digging her stuff lately.
Yeah. So a lot of artists that are kind of like that are doing kind of cooler, unique stuff, and a lot of more, I guess DIY artists, when it comes down to it, is a lot of the stuff that I'm digging a lot more. So
Well, I mean, lots of artists are kind of doing a DIY,
DIY aspect,
anything,
yeah. Which I guess kind of is why I was like, was it a solo or is it like a band? Because there's a lot of bands now that are essentially just one writers, right? Or you have an idea that there's just one guy kind of doing majority of their
Steering the
writing.
ship.
Yeah, exactly, for that band. So it's tough because there's a lot of great music out there that's done these days. It's to really like hone in on exactly one artist is really tough, especially because I'm just all over the place for what I listen to.
Well, when I was writing a lot, I'll get the show kicked off then. When I was writing a lot, a big inspiration for me was actually
Okay.
Radiohead.
Oh,
They were a huge inspiration.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Okay.
I would listen to a lot of their stuff, and it was really like captivating for me how they like invoked the emotion. Like they came out with this, like the stuff was just, I don't know, it was so like a cinematic soundtrack or something, right?
Okay.
And I always thought that was really interesting. The lyrics of everything were so cool and complex, but the music wasn't always that way. And I always thought that was really cool when they could fuse a really complex idea and like put it to some music that was not as
deliver it in a digestible way, but allowing it to still be intricate.
exactly
Yeah, cool.
And their
Yeah, yeah,
stories were so cool,
Okay.
and they weren't always like the verse chorus kind of types too, right? They had some stuff that was like they would repeat and do things within the song, but it wouldn't it wouldn't be as like
Structured.
as structured
Okay.
as what
Yeah,
you
yeah,
hear
yeah.
now.
Okay.
So
I see what you're saying.
they were
Yeah,
cool.
yeah,
They're just really cool. Like they made such a cool atmosphere.
yeah. Neat. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I guess for me, for that kind of stuff, would be the underground stuff here on Ontario. A lot of Dead and Divine, Straight Reads the Line.
Right. Well, of course those as well. Yeah.
Yeah, for the heavier stuff. But yeah, that's cool because that's like even just like a different from what we wrote. That's a completely different type of genre and stuff.
Well,
like
that's
that to be inspired by.
Yeah, and that's why I thought that was like a cool thing to bring to the table. It was like,
yeah.
it's it's not typical, but at the same time, if you really listen to that band, you're like, oh, okay, like there's a lot of cool inspiration you can draw from it. It's just like, for me, it's really cool. I don't know how familiar you are with their music, but
Yeah, sorry, I'm thinking as I look off. When I look off, that means I'm thinking about it. Yeah.
yeah, no, it's all good. That's where I'm at.
That's cool. So when you started writing, did you have any idea of what you wanted to write or a style you wanted to write or anything, or did you just start writing and that's what came out?
Yeah, pretty much that. Okay. Pretty much just like there was never too much direction. It was like once I started hitting something though, I was like able to just kind of dive deeper down that path. And sometimes it, ends up being riffs at
So it was like a natural progression once you kind of caught a certain riff or something like
Yeah.
that. No matter what way it went, it didn't really matter the genre. It's just a natural progression that felt good and that you enjoyed kind of
Yeah.
thing.
And sometimes some things I like will record as I'm making it, and then I'll just like rework it completely for something else.
Okay.
And I've done that a few times. Yeah.
With the reaction stuff, ended up being some
Yeah,
stuff
and
down the road, right?
and that's even like those are really close to the same genre, pretty much.
Yes.
They pretty much are the same. But there were other things that I would write that were like softer, and then I'd like bring it into maybe speed up the tempo, add some more like hard hitting, heavy hitting drums instead of like, I don't know, maybe like some hip hop beats or something in behind. I don't know.
whatever it might have been. Yeah.
There was when you were just like onto a right idea. So like for me, it was like it was always searching after that atmosphere, that like that feeling.
Yeah.
And then it almost doesn't matter. He's getting so serious.
I'm just getting comfy now. I'm just trying to get comfy here.
It's like being on a late show now. Ruin the light.
No, I'm staying right in the shot, bro.
Okay, but yeah, I don't know, man. I think that was probably my most interesting thing, like to bring to the table.
Was your writing?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Well, and the inspiration
Yeah.
for it. I think that was.
Yeah, because even I guess thinking back now, I mean, you've always been the main writer for a lot of stuff. Even when it was like you and Clarky and that, you were still writing a lot of stuff, and there was a lot of cool out of the box riffs that we were getting from Clarky's stuff too to make the music a little more unique.
Yeah, I think when him and I like sat down with songs is when we always had the best outcome.
The best, yeah. And even in general, with that being said, with writing too, like, let's maybe talk about how writing has developed over the last 5 to 10 years.
I'd love to.
With the way that a lot more. Now, I mean, I don't know if this is the case with rock bands or with other kinds of bands. I assume so, maybe with electronic bands because it's more like one or two people and stuff like that. But there's a lot more heavier bands these days that are based off of one writer kind of thing, like I was referencing earlier. There's one main writer because the access to affordable gear is and getting good tones off of your computer is more predominant now than it has ever been to be able to create a project from the start all the way to maybe 75 to 90% kind of thing as soon as you need to bring in somebody else for whatever drum part or vocals or whatever it might be kind of thing. So how do you think that's developed? Like, do you think that it's been positive for the overall experience? Do you think it's been a negative thing?
I think it's all around ultimately pretty positive.
Okay.
I just like that idea that you can lay down your own idea and just like here it is, like you create something from nothing and like you're able to share that now. I think that's a very good thing because it just like kicks inspiration on for the rest of the band to be able to add to it. And like music is so collaborative, and if it is just one person trying to like bogart everything. Like they're the one writer, no one else can write anything.
Yeah.
I do think that you're really limiting yourself because the opportunity is so there for what other people do, and once you bring that in, it makes it better. So I do like the idea that you can just like record anything and it can sound pretty good and people get the idea really quickly. But I think that if you're showing people to say, hey, look, this is done, this is what it is, then you're really doing yourself a disservice, because there's a lot of opportunity to that like the other band members or friends can just add value.
Just an outside ear in general to have a different take on it.
Yeah. We literally got the dog running around in a circle.
She's chasing her booty.
She's crazy.
So cute.
Yeah.
Like I'm in the same boat where I love the idea that ease of access is there to be able to just bang out ideas
It's cool.
as quick as you can and send them to everybody and to flush it out
Yeah.
as far as you can until you get to a real studio point or to do your pre-pro or whatever it might be. I feel a little, I'm a little taken back from it, or I'm a little hesitant to want to put a good stamp on that because of how I've seen it directly affect the writing that we've done in the band and stuff like that. With you just saying that, working with Clark and working with another player and stuff, how beneficial it can be. That's one thing that I always thought was something that down the line we were missing out on a little bit, was that being able to sit down and write, and how important that was for everyone to be there for the whole process of writing an album front to back, and to have their input and that much extra personality into it, right? To have their parts being played and stuff like that. And then even in that flip side, that DIY aspect of being able to track and do that many parts yourself puts less value on those parts in general, I feel like, because you feel like I don't need someone else musically for these parts. So in the sense of, if we would write a song and we wrote it with a bass player and it's finished and the bass player wrote all his parts and stuff and that's over, and that bass player left, our instinct is to replace that bass player. You know what I mean? But if we wrote a tune and it was backtracked for drums and for guitar and for bass, we'd be like, what do we need? Well, we really just need a drummer. You know what I mean? We could just backtrack bass and guitar because it's already right there, ready to go for backtracks kind of thing. So I feel like it almost devalues the position a little bit when you start not incorporating other musicians into the writing process. Not that it doesn't give you, like, you can still get obviously a great take and great musicianship out of it and stuff, but then I feel like at the end of it, you're like, oh, maybe this isn't as important because, I didn't need an actual bass player to write it, so maybe I don't need an actual bass player to play it live.
Yeah.
What do you think?
That's a whole different topic too, just on like backtracks.
The backtracks and stuff, yeah.
I don't think I don't know, man. If it sounds good, it sounds good, like no matter who made it.
Yeah.
But I think that everybody has their own stamp, and what makes a band, like, so you can be a good band or like a pretty good band and do everything, have one main writer, and let's say they wrote everything and then everybody else just performed it on the album. You can have a good band that way, but I think to get to that great level, the level where it's like next level type of shit, that's when you have to reach outside and have like a whole collaboration,
a collective of musicians.
And in terms of like a band, like other artists, I know we try to like we try to be a little more general with stuff. Maybe like a hip hop artist might find it more inspiring to only work with one like producer or something. Maybe if they tried another producer, that might change. Like, you never know, right?
But that's how they feel their creativity flows best, is with that other person, which is also like finding a good partner in that sense too, right?
Yeah, when I think you always want to collaborate as much as you possibly can, and I also know that that's sometimes not even possible, and sometimes you just don't have, like, you don't have the capacities, the capabilities,
you don't have the tools to collaborate with somebody.
You don't have the tools. You don't get together often enough. Like, that's another thing. Everybody's got to want it. So, even an amazing musician might not be the best fit for, like, the band itself, and being able to handle the business side of the band, and that can happen. And then you what do you do? Like your music kind of, either your music has to suffer or the band business has to suffer. And you kind of have to make that decision and choose, right?
Yeah.
And that like, I'm sure that happens in any artist form, right? I'm sure there's always and when you, especially like if you come from like a singer-songwriter background and you're constantly looking for like your band, right? Or enough people that you can trust enough to play with you, that shit might be like really hard to find. And you might also notice that, well, it just feels like a lot of the time too, it must be like a hired gun situation.
I was about to say that's why there's so many artists out there that just have studio musicians with them, right? Hired guns, like you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just people that can just kill it.
Yeah.
First take, and that's it. I think it's so open, man. Like songwriting is just so free, and you can do whatever the hell you want with it. And I think like people, maybe experimenting is what people need to do more, and that might help you find everything. And experimenting, you could experiment with different people, different positions that those people play.
Yeah, different genres.
Tons of stuff.
Tons of options, yeah. And
but that's why I think. Sorry, I just want to get back to that computer music thing. That's why I think it overall it is a positive thing, because you're able to get your idea captured quicker, and anything that helps you speed up that process to be able to show somebody, hey, look, this is what I've done. Yeah. The quicker you can do that, the better. Like the more stuff you're going to put out and the more practice you're going to get and the more cohesive the band could potentially be, as long as, everybody's following that same thing and like listening to it and offering their.
Yeah. Almost utilizing it as the tool that it is, and maybe not as your main pedestal or your main crutch for the whole band kind of thing. Yeah.
It's really just saying like, is just saying that, hey, I'm showing you this, but it's not set in stone. And, if whatever you're hearing here isn't good enough, then, let's go back into it and offer some solutions to maybe change this up, or, scrap the whole thing and maybe we'll try again. Right.
I guess at the end of the day, as long as there's an end product, doesn't matter what the path was to get there.
But you hear it in bands all the time when one member leaves or they join another band later on. You always hear that sound like in that instrument range is like it's unchanged, right? It usually sounds like their style. And that's why like some things just work, right? Sometimes you're like, "Oh, wow, like they got a new vocalist and changed the whole band up."
Whole flow, yeah.
The whole sound as a whole was better, but as you pick apart pieces, you notice the whole band might be the same.
Yeah. That writing aspect is huge.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's where people should spend the most time to really like hammer that down and try to make things fit within each other. I think it's when a band can really have that same sound, but not not have every song sound the same. That's like an art in and of itself, and like a rarity. You don't hear that often, honestly. But I think that like bands should strive for something like that as much as they can.
I was gonna ask you what you thought the best tool for bands for writing is, and now that I think about it, we've been talking about it this whole time, would be that aspect of being able to record and send it to the
computer.
Any kind of recording software in general, right?
Yeah.
And it's an audio thing on your phone or whatever it might be. Yeah.
Anything that captures your idea.
And you can relay it to anybody else.
Yeah. So I say like lean into the computer if you can. The end product doesn't have to be digital even. I just think when it comes to quickness and it's like ease of use, the computer is just you're there in an instant.
Yeah. The idea of like a perfect world would be to like flush out 40 to 50% of those ideas on the computer, send it to everybody, and then everyone gets together for a week straight and you just finish writing it, right?
Yeah. That's really cool. I love that with possibly getting everybody in one room and writing. Like, I mean, that was something that was really easy early on.
When you're younger and you have nothing but time every afternoon.
And it got increasingly harder. And so, like, if you're a band or an artist and you have time, and your friends have time, you have your crew, like, don't waste that shit.
Do not waste that time, because it will diminish. Especially the more serious you get with band too, the more you realize that you don't actually have as much time. Like your free time just gets less and less and less every single year, especially when you're like, okay, now we don't just have to spend time at practice. We have to spend X amount of hours doing everything else involved: social media, planning, merchandise, getting into the studio. Like, there's just going out and playing those shows in general. Like, you have so much other shit that you have to take care of. So,
and all that being said, like, I could understand if somebody in high school is listening to this and being like, what the fuck do these guys know?
No.
But because really, I mean, I wouldn't have listened to anybody if they told me this anyway. Yeah. So I totally get it. But if it does get through to one person and they're like able to actually want to make a career out of this, I would suggest like starting now and like writing down your goals and getting getting everything figured out and working day by day, getting a little bit done every day, because like in a year's time, you'll be so much further ahead if you just start. Yeah. Instead of saying, this is going to be better when I'm older because of this, or
I'll have more money, or I'll have, it'll become,
It won't.
It won't. It really won't. I just thought of something I wanted to say and I lost it now too.
Ooh, that is like the theme of this podcast. Like everything there's always something that we're about to say.
Obviously, like everyone tells you put in your practice your craft, blah, 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 blah. But there's something to be valued about putting in so much effort into your practice and getting it to such a tight point that, for lack of a better, like, without sounding like irresponsible, you don't have to have band practice anymore. Like, we got to a point where we were so tight and we were so on it that we could get away with, if we played a show, we could take 3 weeks off and have a practice or 2 practices right before the show and be tight enough not tight enough, but be tight as hell, and still rip that show kind of thing. And then it even transferred right into tour and stuff like that, right? It wasn't like, all right, we need this entire week of practice to get ready for tour. It's like, no, we can practice once a week and then twice the week leading up to tour, as long as we have the set ready and we know what's going on. We've already put that groundwork in. Now it's just about putting the puzzle pieces where we want them to make that set flow the way we want to and to keep it fresh, right? So to put in, after you're done writing, practice the shit out of that so that you don't have to again later. You know what I mean? Like, imagine if we had practiced that and we only got it to maybe 85% the tightness that we did compared to when we were like ripping it. Like, there's videos that I remember us watching that like a year before, it would be like whatever, it'd be late 2017, and we watched a video from 2016 in the summer, like, wow, we were tight as heck. It's like seeing that and like realizing a year later that because we were doing a little bit different music and we weren't practicing as much and all that stuff because we didn't have to as much, so we took it for granted. We're like, wow, we were really friggin' tight then. We're not that tight now. Knowing, like, audibly knowing we're not that tight now. I mean, like, that was when we were on it. We were playing a lot. We were like practicing a lot, and there's the proof is right there, right? So put in that work once you're done writing, and it'll pay off in spades.
I think so. I definitely think so. That's a huge thing. Okay, last little thing before we wrap up, because we're getting there. It's actually 24 minutes, so we could wrap it up. But I kind of wanted to get to the pop music structure that people are, everybody's got, and
verse, chorus, verse, bridge kind of thing.
And sort of think of how bands these days can sort of switch that up. Like, what are a few things? Because I know a few, like a tool that I used a lot was to kind of keep things in the same key, the same progression, but maybe slow it down, or use like a different drum loop or something.
Pattern.
Change the lead over top of it. There, like for a guitarist, there's plenty of things that you can do. Like, what are some things that you did to like tie music around? Because if for people that don't know, like our band, we would always have songs that kind of followed a narrative. They were more of a story, and they would have like highs and lows and that kind of stuff, rather than a verse chorus like kind of in a loop. So
the easiest thing for me was lyrically to do it.
Yeah.
and to throw little things at the beginning, middles, and ends that were a little bit related to each other. You know what I mean? Kind of reoccurring themes in that same idea where I would use maybe the same patterns, but I would
Okay.
completely change the lyrics for it and stuff like that. So you knew it was coming. So you had that bit of like the verse flow, but it was the
Yeah.
same, right? You had
Yeah.
a mini verse that was really just a quarter of what an actual verse would be for length.
Yeah.
But then you had it here, and then I maybe did that same kind of pattern later on over a completely different part. But you're like, oh, I relate that same pattern, and then the
Yeah.
same thing for lyrics. So there was little things like that I did to relate it. But like you said, we were super progressive
Right,
with the way
yeah.
we write super progressive stuff. So even anything that relates to anything is kind of like a good little thing in our books, right? Anything
Right.
that can relate it and bring more. Not consistency, but cohesiveness
Yeah.
to the music was always nice. So there was little things like that I did to try and help out and maybe do certain vocal patterns for singing and try,
Yeah.
little stuff like that. But it was a little tough sometimes because we were never happy doing the same thing twice. You know what I mean? So it was,
Yeah.
there was always too many lyrics and lots of extra stuff that was trying to do this and trying to do that wasn't maybe as mainstream as it could be or as digestible as it could be for certain people, but we liked it and we thought it was cool.
Yeah, but the plus side for all that is like, okay, it might seem harder to remember because you're kind of like you have to go through the song, like it has to be each.
There's
part
so many
by part.
different things, but yeah, it's a natural flow though because one goes into the
Right.
next. Yeah, exactly. There
But-
was a storyline, if you
Right,
will.
but if you do a verse chorus, and it's like the second verse, you might be on the second verse or the third verse when you think you're on the first, or all that kind of stuff. Like you could really, I think you could mess it up a lot easier that way.
It's funny you say that. So I could play you 150 different popular songs. I could not sing them to you though. I can sing you the
Right.
first verse,
And that's about it.
and then I can sing you the chorus,
But it's even if the
But
song
the
starts with the chorus, you could probably only sing the chorus then.
and then maybe the first verse,
Maybe?
because
Okay.
I'll be able to remember the first little bit
Right.
because that's what'll stick because that's what I'll hear for the first. But then
Right.
you put a gun to my head, I will not get Hotel California right. Like I can't do it. I've never been able to do it
Yeah.
my entire life. There's
Oh,
just
man.
there's so many different little, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and then
nuances.
there's nothing that's quite different enough about it that keeps me entertained. Even I Dare David Bowie by Holly Springs Disaster. I deleted it off my phone because I don't want
Yeah.
to listen to it. I remember learning it when I was 16 or 17 and it was just the same thing the entire song,
Yeah.
and hardly anything was that different. There was nothing that was cool or unique about it, and I'm just like, I'm done with this tune for the rest of my life.
Peace. I
I'm
don't
just
even
like,
care.
it comes on when I play through the Holly Springs album and I skip it.
Oh my
And,
God.
so, you know what I mean? But it's just because like it just doesn't entertain me enough, and there's a lot
Yeah.
of pop music that is in that same boat where maybe that second verse didn't have anything unique about it, so I just don't care. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
not as bad with a lot of the female artists because a lot of them have the vocal capabilities to add really cool runs and things like
Right,
that,
okay.
and go into a next key or kick it up a notch for that second verse.
Yeah.
So I feel like a lot of pop music has gotten better about separating
Right.
the first verse from the second verse from the third verse and really developing it so you're absorbing the song as a whole.
Yeah.
And it's not like they're putting out super long songs anymore. Most of the stuff is
Right.
only 3 minutes. So if
Yeah.
you can't keep someone hooked for 3 minutes,
Yeah.
the song's got an issue. And I feel like that's what you hear is you'll hear a lot of pop music that's out these days where you're like, okay, this isn't bad. And you're like, oh, but it doesn't change. So it's
Yeah.
like you're done within that first minute and you're like, it had potential. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? I get why someone endorsed it because they saw the potential in it, but
Yeah.
it just didn't have quite enough musicality to keep you hooked the whole way.
Dude, there's something to be said about those songs where you're just like, oh, wait for the breakdown. Like this is so sick.
Wait for that, yeah. And even like there's tons of pop stuff that has that bridgy breakdown kind of thing. That's like doesn't have to be a heavy music to have a
yeah.
quote unquote breakdown. It
Yeah,
all
yeah.
depends on what you describe it as, right? A breakdown is pretty much a bridge,
Yeah.
So
Yeah, yeah.
it's just a different interpretation of it. So
Okay.
there's lots of cool stuff with cool bridges out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, pop is.
I just urge new musicians that haven't really tried that to try that. Even if one song is like that and you're just like, oh, this is kind of cool just because it's like
Yeah.
a story, then I think it's really cool.
as in like writing
Yeah.
the verse, chorus, verse kind of thing, and going down that aspect.
Do that. Try to change that, or try to write a whole song that's like no repeated
Not
parts.
repeated, just
Yeah.
completely progressive the whole way. Yeah.
Anyway,
Cool.
I think that about wraps it up for that. Songwriting, what
I
a
think-
fun
well,
thing.
I was gonna
could
say
probably
we
do a part
should
two.
we should wrap it up in whole. At the
Yeah.
end of the day, what matters is that you are writing. You're putting in the time and the effort to write, and that not even that you're gonna get results at the end, is that you're doing it. It's the Jerry Seinfeld kind of thing, right? As long as you're writing every day and you're constantly putting that work in, something's gonna come out of it eventually. And
Yep.
and be open to criticism and other people's creative energy,
Yep.
and utilize the tools you have around you to make the writing process
Collaborate.
efficient and as best as you can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Collaborate. And
Cool.
everybody meet everybody. They're like, talk in the comments. Talk in the comments below. Tell me what you think, or how you write all the songs that you write, and collaborate. That would be awesome if we got like two people to meet up
Wow.
and be like, yeah, let's do something in the comments. That'd be pretty crazy. Anyway, cool. Great to hear from you.
Hit us
AKA
up if you want to collaborate on something.
yeah,
We have
or hit us
recording
up.
capabilities. If you hit us up with something, we'll throw a little something on there.
Yeah.
Ask us. We can throw guitar or vocals.
We'll do a theme song challenge.
Okay.
So if someone can give us
So
a
we have to
theme
come
song, we will re-record it maybe.
So we
but-
have to come up with a name for this, and then someone will record a theme song for us.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Well, it might
Okay.
be named by the time that this episode's up. We'll
Ooh.
see. All right. That's
Cool.
good. That's good.
All right.
I'm happy.
Later, guys.
See ya.